All right, here we go. uh, One of the most unique artists that I found so far recently from here, Krosst Out. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for coming by to the TLOY channel.
100%, man. I'm happy to be here.
No doubt, no doubt. Um, Also, I've checked out like music recently too, and then I also gave like a feature on it like a while back too. Fix Myself, which is out now on all streaming platforms, and it's a very unique song, and it has like a unique vibe to it too. And also, I've been like looking at like the other stuff right now with Phone Calls with Ghosts, Life of the Party, like those projects, and the growth on it is impeccable. Like it has like an amazing vibe to it in that sense. And then one crossout track that I actually noticed that gained my interest was the Runaway song with melodica, which has like a unique vibe to it too, because kind of blends like certain genres like pop and like with rap and all that, which is like very interesting as well.
Right. Yeah. No, thanks, man. Really appreciate that. I mean, Life of the Party was kind of like the first thing that I really kind of put out publicly. I was doing like a few things before, like some remixes or just like things I was finding online, but that was sort of like more serious project. And then yeah, Phone Calls with Ghosts was last year. So but yeah, this year has just kind of like been singles. So thought it would start it off really nice. Like um the fans and people around us were kind of like, hey, like when do we get like a real melodica and Crossed Out collab? Because we did I Don't Care, right? That was before she was like really like melodica, like a solo artist. And so it says like on the CD it says featuring Meliel, but she only did the chorus. So it just kind of took some more time, and but we kind of figured out a way to actually make a real collab work. So that's what Runaway was.
No doubt, no doubt. And I want to like start it off like at the very beginning too. So since this is like your first time on the show, you stated that you're from Toronto. That's correct?
Yeah. Currently I'm in Montreal, but I still base myself out of Toronto. Yes.
True, true. So, which ends did you grow up like in like Toronto, and what was like the environment like for you growing up, as well as like your childhood? Would you say that it was like a very great experience growing up, or would it be like very like different in that sense?
So I base myself out of Toronto, but I didn't actually grow up in Toronto. I grew up in a small town of 3,000 people, um, about 2 hours away from Toronto, called Campbellford. And so growing up there was an experience because I mean, Toronto is this massive city, and then Campbellford, like I said, only has 3,000 people. Like two gas stations and grocery store and three stoplights. So, it's kind of like that type of thing. And then you move from there to Toronto, and it's a big radical change. But I mean, I moved to Toronto knowing what I wanted to do because I bounced around. I went to Ottawa and then Montreal and then Toronto. So for music. So, but for a while I was repping the east end of Toronto. I was out by like Coxwell and Gerrard. That was where I was crashing for a while, and then I made my way out to the sort of like west end. So yeah.
No doubt, no doubt. And like even like with those like areas, like kind of like growing up, with Gerard and Coxwell, with Campbellford, the West End, Ottawa, like Montreal, like were you like infused to like a variety of like music scenes there? And like even in that sense too, did those areas inspired you to pursue more music like in the music scene there? Like, just being a part of like those cultures and within those scenes as well?
Yeah, I think like, I mean, my school was known for having a good music program, but the music program was just like band, like big band type of stuff. and I wasn't a part of that. Like I did my own music and had like my own friends that were involved in music, but kind of collabing was sparse. And rap was not like a huge thing in my hometown, you know. So I was super into to um to hip hop music, but I also have a dad that's a rock and roller. Like he played in bands in Toronto all throughout like 80s and 90s and stuff. And then so I grew up with that influence of like the Who and the Clash, um and then I found hip hop music. And then with that, as I got older, I also had friends that were metalheads, like metal and the punk. And so with that, it was like I'm going over to my friend's house and he's showing me Rage Against the Machine and Opeth and Tool and System of a Down. And then so then there's that. And then I just kind of on my own time like dig more into those, but then also dig more into the hip hop world too. So it was sort of becoming like an amalgamation. But I was playing bass at the same time too to like do like meet other musicians, you know, because bassists are always needed. So that was sort of like how I was grinding my gears into the music with that.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And it's actually like very interesting too in that sense too, because we don't really have like a lot of like genre blending like artists like in Toronto, like in that sense too, unless you talk about like certain acts, like Just John, who blends more like with hip hop and with rock and with metal in that sense too, and then others
Yeah.
within the hip hop like R&B fused too. And it's interesting too, like when I talk about this too, because when I lead on to like this other question, I feel like we already explained it in that sense too, like within all the other questions like combined. So, but within that sense, what inspired you to become like a rapper and like singer songwriter and like musician as well, like in that sense?
Right. I guess it was just kind of like, you know, when you just find something that you just connect with so deeply, you're like, what the fuck is this? Um, and that was what happened, man. Like it was like, and I grew up in a Christian household, so it was like the the taboo around rap music made it even more like one of those things. Like I wanted to get my hands on it, so I was like sneaking CDs. And like it was back in the day when you could like burn CDs but then not list it. You could just have like unnamed track one, unnamed track two, so it was even no idea what it was, but I could get away with that. um and I think, yeah, it just kind of like my world started centering around music. Like I said, like my dad was a rock and roller, so like we had guitars in the house. I found this bass in the house. My buddy played drums. Later on, he started playing started playing guitar, and we just kind of would jam all the time. And then on my spare time, I was writing lyrics because it was just a way to vent. And then it just kind of spiraled more and more into there. And then like the older I got, when people were like, "Oh, like what do you want to do for a living?" It became clear like I don't want a regular job. That seems kind of bullshit. So I'd much rather just have um, focus on my music. You know, I want to create music, and that's sort of that was why, you know, I left Campbellford to go to Ottawa to figure some things out, and then I moved to Montreal to go to audio school, and then from there, just, you know, it got more in depth.
No doubt, no doubt. And I guess this is like when the progression of your musical career started in that sense too, since in 2017, I guess that was like the start of you starting off as Crossed Out with your musical release of like Life at the Party 2, which was like mainly like a 4-track EP. And then years later, like I think in 2020 or 2019, you did Phone Calls with Ghosts as well too. So speaking about like those two projects in general, like what were the creative like processes like when working on those projects, and what inspired you to like make them in that sense?
Yeah, well, like I said, like, yeah, Life of the Party was the first thing I put out, and it kind of, that had spun from me just being in Toronto. I was just trying to get my foot in, and just meeting people. So I had met my buddy Dan Salee, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I got these songs that need a hip hop vocalist on," and so we just kind of started collabing. I wrote to one of them, we recorded it. I met the guy that does all my video work now, Eric Soto. He just did the edits for the Fix Myself video, and all the videos that you see are basically him, except for Runaway. Um, but we we just built on something, and so over the past over 2015, we just kind of started creating this thing, and then like 2016, it was like I was still kind of writing it, like I was tweaking things. Like I wanted things to be really, really good, and I didn't know how to like properly. Um, I didn't know when to say like what was good enough, so I spent like a lot of time just fixing it, and so that was me. The catalyst for Life of the Party was just like young, I suppose, like early 20s, just like looking back on the party culture of what is my small town, and like there's nothing to do in a small town, so you just go out and party. And that was sort of like that, and I thought it'd be kind of interesting to take like a twist, instead of like having like a full-on like party record, just have um like shed some light on the dark side of that. So it's sort of like follow a journey all the way through. And then with Phone Calls with Ghosts, it was like it took some time. It was sort of the same thing, where it's like at first I thought that there wasn't really anything left for me to talk about with Life of the Party, because it just kind of took it out of me, I feel. And then the more I just took some time, and I just wrote and wrote and figured things out, and I read a lot too. So I was reading a bunch of stuff sort of centered around like maybe death, and like life was happening too. People from back home were dying. You go to funerals, like it was we went to a lot of funerals, that it was just kind of like less weddings and more of these funerals. Sort of started, that's a line from the song Funerals, that it just kind of like worked its way. So I went with the same person that I worked with in 2016 for Life of the Party. Like I had taken Life of the Party to Pink Distortion in Toronto. This is studio, and we worked on some more songs. So I took my ideas for Phone Calls with Ghost, and Rain and I just started working on something else. And I was in there like all 2019 summer, just working, and we were just formulating things and creating, and then 2020 kind of rolled around, and I wanted things to kind of like roll out slowly. So but I think Phone Calls with Ghosts is one of the things I care most about in life. uh I don't really, I have a hard time like caring about other things. I'm very like I don't give a fuck. But I think Phone Calls with Ghosts was very personal, and it again was shedding light on everything that I do is kind of like an articulation of where I am currently, So with that, it was like the intro track was me just expressing like what got me to these points, and so I just didn't want anything that I said on the record to be misconstrued as bitter or anything like that. And then funerals, and then it's just sort of like leads its way through. And I think like Black and White was a really cool song for me to do, because I was a huge fan of Under Oath growing up. So it was like 2 minutes of rap, and then like 3-4 minutes of just straight instrumental, like excellent way to finish the record, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Like when I was like listening to the projects, I felt like Phone Calls with Ghosts had more of a like subtle theme. Like I think it was like one of the more consistent projects that I had noticed lately, mainly with the unique themes and the unique subject matters that you should talk about, like life, death, reality, and everything else too. And it's very creative in that sense too, because usually like when you think of like an album title like Phone Calls of Ghosts, like you don't really think to mind. Sometimes most people think would be like demons, others would think more like illusions in that sense too. So it kind of has like an interesting take, like even with the title and even with the subject matter as well. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. Yeah, for me, Phone Calls with Ghosts is sort of like, and I try to explain this, I think, as best as I could, but Phone Calls with Ghosts was like, the title is just simply, it's like there's, again, going with the whole theme of like there's these things in our life that occur where it's like the people that I used to know don't know me anymore, like who I am. Like the people that I grew up with don't know who I actually am anymore. And then the people that know me now, like they know who I am, but not who I was. And then there's people that I don't know, but I will know. And then same thing goes where they won't know who I was. So I think it was one of, that was why I said it was very like personal in a way. Sorry, my cat is knocking this thing here.
It's all good, man. A lot of stuff happens, but either way too, to even like speak about like your sound too for a bit too, because when I think more about you and your sound, I think of a lot of artists who usually go within that whole aspect of like punk and hip hop and rap. So like there's acts like NASCAR Allo, who's probably like one of the biggest artists to infuse hip hop and punk, and then you have previous acts like Mike Shinoda and like Hollywood Undead, and even like this new recent artist called like Tom the Mailman, who infuse like rock with hip hop. And if we're like a little bit serious too, like Youngblood, who actually did some rapping a little bit back then in his previous projects. So
Yeah.
to explain more about your sound, like your genre blending style of infusing punk rock with hip hop and rap, what made you decide on infusing those genres together in your music, and if infusing those genres appealed to more different audiences, like when you are like when you started out, like like even like with music.
Um, yeah, I when I was pitching Fix Myself, actually, a lot of people were saying that it sort of reminded them of like a Youngblood song. So, I took that as a compliment. There wasn't like a really, I guess, deciding factor to genre blend. It just kind of, I think if you're an authentic artist, you're yourself, and you're not copying other people. Or I mean, you take inspiration from other people, but the more you develop as an artist, the more you find yourself and your true sound. And I think like that was also the purpose of Phone Calls with Ghosts, was that like I really just wanted to push myself in a new way and articulate a new sound, um, and really kind of dig deep down into the roots of myself with like just either Reckless is like just kind of like one of those like straight hip hop songs, I think, and then there's like Drive, which is a heavy duty, basically a rock song with like some rap verses. And so I wanted to just express my true self on that record. And yeah, like I said, there wasn't a really defining like I'm gonna I'm going to genre blend when I make music. Uh, it was just me being me. But in terms of like marketability and like people it appeals to the people that like that, I guess. I don't really expect everyone to like it, and that's fine. Like you don't have to like it, and I get it. Like a lot of my stuff is fairly aggressive, and pitching it to playlists can be difficult, or like pitching it to say CBC is going to be difficult because they don't like that type of music. It's very just like in your face. And so, but I think with Fix Myself, it was weird because it was it hit a lot of nails on the head with like a sound, and I think it was like a straight punk song, but like that sound is also coming back too. So it's not hurting anything right now, if you get what I'm saying, right? So it's not going to appeal to everybody, but the people that I think it will appeal to, they will like it a lot.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And even in that crazy sense too, like I had this like weird thought too. If you know, like you have like System in the Down, like just like behind you right there, like with the cover stuff. So
Oh yeah.
so if you were to like pitch it you know, people like System of a Down, like, and if they would appeal it more, like if they appealed, you know, to your type of sound, like in that sense too, would they like rock the type of music and understand the messages that you would convey, like in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think they would get it. You know, I mean, Serge Tankian's then done a song with Tech Nine, and Jared's done lots of other stuff with other rappers. He's been on lots of different rap albums, so I think they would totally get it. Um, and I mean, I would love to have them on a record. So, um, I think that kind of crowd would really dig it. You know?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And in terms of, you know, like you like making music in that sense too, do you have like a creative process like whenever you like make music? And what would like a day like in the studio be like for you, or if you're like recording music like at home in that sense?
Well, because of the pandemic, I'm doing a lot of stuff here now. So we stepped up our recording game, because before I spent a lot of time just going to the studio. My usual process is it's been very remote, kind of, I guess, from the get-go, because there's a producer I work with out of Sudbury. His name is Jordell Downs, and he does a lot of my production. He did Fix Myself, and then we added the live elements later. But so I'll message him, and like we'll work together on something, and then when I have it, I'll just have it in my phone, and listen to it, and I'll write. Like I prefer writing on the subway or the bus. I think there's just sort of like an ambience, like the ambience of it just kind of helps jog something, and it's also like almost distraction free, because I'm not at home, so I don't have my computer, or I don't like get up to go do something, or like no one's going to talk to me. So that's where I do a lot of my bulk and best writing. And then I will either go to the studio and record it, or now I have my stuff here, so I'll record it here, then I'm sending it out to get it mixed and mastered.
No doubt, no doubt. And you know, it's actually like very interesting too, because sometimes you could like really like tell the difference on recording music at home versus like recording like in the studio too, you know, based on like the quality, the sound, the pitches, and everything like that too. And you know, in some cases too, some stuff that can be made like in home, you know, like it could have like as much like better quality as like maybe like in a studio in that sense too. And but I feel like there are like certain differences like in that sense too, depending on the engineering and you know the conditions of the sound too, like you know the soundproof of the mic and like or versus like, the soundproof like the booth. So has like a lot of
Yeah,
like different aspects to it.
totally. I mean, a good recording always starts at the source. You know, if you're gonna have like, you cannot polish a turd. So like if you start off shitty, it's gonna still sound slightly shittier. Like it's gonna sound slightly shitty. It's just gonna like, oh hey, like that's a nice reverb on a piece of poo. Um, and but I mean, for the most part, like you know, I went to audio school, so I know how to achieve the best sound here. I just kind of was lazy, and you know, honestly, we didn't live in the best like the optimal spot for recording. But like I said, you know, since the pandemic, we've kind of made our spot suitable for recording. So I'll do the best. I get the best recordings here actually. It's a little bit different, I do like going into the booth and turning down the lights and getting that ambience and just being able to just having the studio atmosphere, I think, and having someone else do it for you, like, yo, run that back, or instead of like now I'm just like I'm here by myself, rapping into the mic and fuck. Okay, stop, go, do it again. No, and then I'm talking to myself, but there's no one to boss around, and there's no one to get angry at when things go.
No doubt, no doubt. I know what you mean. What appealed me to when I found out about you is like your name too, because Krosst Out, like it ends with a T, like with two S's, like, well, that would be like with cross, but that T made it like very like interesting in that sense too. So how did you actually get the name like Crossed Out, like in that sense too? So because there might be like some history towards it in that sense.
Yeah, that's funny. It's edgy, isn't it? It's it kind of came about like I thought it would be great when I was just kind of like recording stuff as a teenager with my buddy Ethan, and so we were just kind of like, oh yeah, like need a name, and I was going through like trying to figure out what my rap name would be, and so I thought, oh, you know what, like a lot of the time I feel like I'm crossed out from things, like in terms of a list, like I'm not one to be on one, like on a list, like they'll always cross me out of a list, so I'm always getting crossed out of things. And then so for a time I was spelling it the traditional spelling, and then I thought to just kind of like separate myself from that, it would be cool to add a K, and then later on I got rid of the ed and then put in the T, and then that was sort of just that, like I just kind of just kept it and it just stuck. And then so from like 17 it's just been crossed out with a K and a T. It's like, yeah, I don't know, it's not like someone gave me the rap name at a rap battle or something like that. Like it's sort of, I don't know.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And it's pretty interesting too in that sense too. To speak more about working with melodica too, because I noticed with Runaway it had like an alternative version and then the regular version as well too. So
Yeah.
and then you also worked with her on another song for Life of the Party too. So in that sense, tell me more about like working with melodica and what was like the relationship with working with her and how you managed to work with her and like the even like with the creative process inspiration for Runaway.
Right. Okay. So I mean, well, with Life of the Party, it was like um we wanted to do a song together. I met her at audio school, and then she moved to Toronto, and then we just kind of started dating and have been dating since then. So she's my girlfriend. Um, but she had like an idea for a song way back, and it was just sort of like a vocal demo, and I liked it. And one of the refrains that she had in the song was like something about like I don't care. And then I was like, ah, yeah, it's really cool. And then I made an original kind of demo on Logic and just was fucking with it. I was writing to it, and then uh, we took it to Pink Distortion, and then made what is now I Don't Care. And then because she helped formulate that whole idea, she like I was like, yeah, like do the chorus, it'd be great. And then so that's how that happened. And then with Runaway, it was Jordell and I worked on the beat, and then I had that for a while. I had that actually at the same time I was working on phone calls with ghosts, but it kind of wasn't matching. Like, I thought it was too happy to be part of the album, so I just kind of left it and then started writing to it later. And then, so I wrote my part. I wrote the chorus and the first verse, and then sent it to her. And then she wrote her part. But initially, it was only just those little. The alternative version is what she originally sent me. So then I didn't have a second verse. So I had to write a second verse. So then wrote a second verse, go into the studio, I record my part, and then she goes in, records her part. And so I'm with her producer for her album, Sean Savage. So I'm with her, and then so she's like, oh yeah, but like Aaron's part starts too early, so like get rid of his part, and then like, so we're like, so you have a second verse? Like, yeah. Oh, okay. So then we got rid of my part. She did hers. Like, well, then this should just be like the straight original version. So the runaway version that we initially put out was is, I guess, the alternative version, and the alternative version is the real version, but we just kind of did it different ways,
Yeah, no doubt. It seemed pretty interesting in that sense too. And like I get like the vibe that you guys were together. Like I think people who are like in relationships and who do make music, they get the creative energies out of each other, in which it makes into like very good music or very good production in that sense too. And it has worked with like a variety of people who have been in those like relationships in that sense too, like some long lasting, some were short lived. Like we can even talk about like him and I with G-Eazy and Halsey, like who were previously dating like at a certain point, and then
Yeah.
uh Marvin Gaye and I think Diana Ross. I don't know if they were dating or not, but they had like great music together in that sense too. Ike and Tina at one point too, but then no one really wants to talk about it because of the domestic abuse in that sense too. But in that sense too, like if we're just speaking music wise too, like couples who are together and who do make music, who are also like musicians, they make great music together in that sense too. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's like a piece of them that kind of becomes like synonymous, I think, after a while. Like, I mean, Sonny and Cher comes to mind, right? Like even after their split, they still did like their stuff together. And it was just like that. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it definitely helps to have someone who is of like the same level of creativity, I suppose. Um, and so like that can help push you and get ideas. And then um, I'm a little bit more sporadic in my thoughts, so I will bounce ideas back, or I'll be like, yo, like listen to this demo. It's like, no, I want to hear it. I'm like, no, like listen, and like, but it's not mixed at all. It's just a straight rough. Just like, that was pretty bad. Like, well, but it's not that. Like, and then but so there's an element of truth. So we're very truthful with each other, because we just want to. There's no competition, which I think is also rare in the creative world. I think, like, especially with rappers or just musicians, I think there's always an element of um, jealousy, or like, sort of like one-upping each other, and there's not that in a relationship, at least not ours. So that's a benefit.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. To speak more about, touring in that sense too, because I think the only time that I've had talked about touring in that sense too, I talked about it with one artist who talked about his touring experiences, like touring around Canada and like the United States, and then with this other artist by the name of Emily Brimlow, who I did like a written interview with. She talked about touring with an R&B singer named Teddy Swims for the most part, like for the majority of her American tour. in like early 2020. So explain more for you. You stated with being a cross country touring artist and touring in like various areas throughout like musical career. Tell me more about your experience touring and what are some interesting things that you've noticed throughout your time, like while touring.
Just going different places and doing a show is always gratifying. When a venue says that they'll take you, that's always really great. And I think the amount of people that you get to meet there too. Obviously, I book my shows, so I'm in contact with the artists beforehand. But then like the people that come out and have a good time, and like the faces you get to meet, and then um, it's just a much better way of connecting with people. I've been starving to get to do a show, man. Since this whole thing has happened, there's only so much you can do online, and so I'd really like to go out and start uh, doing some more stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's just like all the people that come out to the shows, all the faces you get to meet, and then that are rocking your music.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And it's actually like very interesting too because when I looked at like your accolades so far too, you were like nominated for like a variety of things. So you were not nominated for the CIMVA, the two-time Mississauga Music Award, and for Best Urban Artist by Wigwam Radio. And
Yeah.
so tell me more about that impact that it had for you for your musical career and like how you felt like when you were told that you were nominated and how it changed like everything for you like in a way.
I mean, it didn't really change anything. I don't really think um, they're not gonna say like serious, but in a way, it's gratifying again, but it doesn't really mean too much, I think, because first of all, like award shows are just weird. Um, it's very like judgmentally, and like who's judging this? Like who are you and what are you basing your votes off of? Um, this is not a slight at any artist that's out there. If you win something, like that's amazing. It's great. There's some element of justification behind the Grammys and Junos, but at the end of the day, like art is art, and I think having someone judge your art kind of detracts the art. And again, like we were talking about it earlier, like my music doesn't appeal to everybody, and like I think I make great songs, but someone else might think I make shit songs. So, and if you're a judge and you don't like my songs, well then I know that I'm gonna lose this thing. So I mean, it's great to be nominated um for those kind of things, and it just, I guess if anything, it just brings more validity to me as an artist. Like when people see me and like see like the accolades, I suppose, then they're like, oh yeah, like okay, he's not just fucking around. Like there is some there's truth to what he does, and we take him seriously. So there's that.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And like it has like this weird. I had this like weird, interesting like take on it in that sense too, because in most situations you feel like award shows are like like 100% rigged based on how they view like certain projects too, and like how others view it in that sense too. And like we could talk like a variety of examples for days and days. We could even talk about it like how the Grammys like have even played a role in that, like even with back in like 2013 with Macklemore winning best rap album over
Yeah,
Good Kid Mad City, or like
I
Beck
was just thinking
winning
that.
over like Beyonce. So I do feel like in some cases too there is some kind of like contradictory when we do talk about award shows, because we don't know who's actually like judging this music. We don't know
Yeah,
what are they like appealing to in that sense. So yeah.
yeah, which is really a shame. I mean, it's funny because like yeah, that was the first example that I thought of was the Macklemore thing. It's like, you know, like who makes up these rules? And
Yeah.
like, you know, it's very clear, you know, that there's something going on. And again, and like, you know, I again like, you know, it's great. I mean, getting a Grammy nomination is must be amazing. So you know, I'm not gonna knock it, but I will knock it, but I won't knock it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. You know, like when we're talking about like Toronto, like the first thing that comes to mind, like in Toronto, is like usually like the Toronto music scene. You know,
Yeah.
mainly with artists and other like acts too. So, like, how do you feel about like the Toronto like music scene in that sense too? Do you feel that there should be some changes on the direction of where the Toronto music scene should go, or do you feel like it's fine like the way it is?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, I'm not, yeah, I guess like for me, there's always problems anywhere. I think you can always find something to fix. And there are people out there that are willing to do that. That will put on fair shows. And by fair, I mean like giving the artist a chance to make money for the show. Um, not just like hyping the show up and then no one is there and then you perform to like 0 people. Um, so I think like in a way, this pandemic is a good thing because it's going to do a lot of changes for the Toronto music scene. I don't think there's going to be room for people to really kind of like go out there and fuck around. For like promoters, you know, to be booking shows and then have no one come, or I guess with artists too, you know, I think there's going to be some more seriousness because it's very like the last venues that are there are gonna want to make money. You know, they just were out of business for what's going on 2 years now. You know, we're kind of coming up on 2 years soon, I guess. And you know, they were closed. So hey man, like we're open now. We need to make some money. Can't have no one showing up. So there's definitely, like I said, always room for improvement. But I think like that's one of the better things that I think will come out of this. Um, and I think there's gonna be there's more artists that are gonna jump at the chance to have a show now too. They've spent so much time on their like so much of themselves online that they're actually gonna want to jump on the stage. So hopefully, man, we'll see some good changes out of that. You know, uh, Toronto music scene isn't bad. It's just kind of it's having a hard. I feel like it's having a hard time like staying afloat, I suppose. And especially like that's not even like anything to do with the artists or promoters. That's to do with the fucking city that want to tear down these goddamn venues and put up a fucking condo, you know?
Yeah.
Why are we outraged? Why do we have to fight to have Sneaky D's, a staple of the Toronto music scene? Why do we have to fight to keep that? You know, why do we have to fight to like keep all these venues and like, you know, or get upset that like, you know, my last performance was at the Hideout. That's fucking gone. The Nocturne is gone. Sneaky D's potentially gonna go. Like it's shameful how the city, the politicians treat their art scene, and then when um asked about it, they kind of just like pat us on the head, you know. So that I think is a bigger is something that needs to change.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree too. And you know, there were actually like some close calls that happened, you know, with these venues too. So back in November of last year, it was like announced that the Mod Club has shut down, like for
Yeah.
good, like in that sense too. But when you look at it like months later, you see a totally different like venue name, same address, and you know, like same things happening. So like now it's like changed to the Axis Club, sorry, which, you know, formerly known as the Mod, still at the same location. And
Okay.
vendors are still like, have like trying to book shows there. So in that sense too, like we don't know like how the potential owners can change things. Some can change it to a condo, some keep it as like the venue too. But I do feel like with politicians and people who are sort of like out of touch in the music scene, they don't know like how these like venues like being shut down and destroyed for like land development hurt the music industry in
Yeah.
that city in that sense too. Because I think like when we like one example that we could talk about, the government, which was like a well-known, like even like Cool House 2, which are two well-known venues that had been big for many years, in 2014 and 2015 shut down for land development too. So even for people who wanted to rave or party, it causes these same issues too. Because where can we go nowadays to, like, we have to go to downtown to vibe out, or do we have to go all the way to other areas too? So
Yeah, it's the same. Like, yeah, it really is a shame, man. And then like, they'll they'll build up, or like, a venue doesn't want to close. Okay, well then we're gonna buy up all the places around you and then put up condos, and then everything's gonna, like, your property tax is gonna go through the roof. So have fun paying that. And then they're forced to close.
yeah,
So yeah, man, it's a shame. I don't like that. I don't like really anything that has to do with that, or any city that happens in. I think like art should be a focus of a city, and I don't see that as much. Um, I've been my dad has uh, told me lots of stories from back in the 80s of his playing at venues and stuff, and like when I explained to him, like, yeah, like, this is the situation, he's astonished of like, that was not like that. So it's recent that these things have happened.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Before we get into like this very last question, I just wanted to find out: are you like a very big like Green Day, like Fallout Boy, and like Weezer fan by any chance?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Green Day. um I got into Weezer from a time, and all those bands, all the pop punk bands are amazing.
True, true. So I think in that sense too, I think because it was announced like last year that they were supposed to go on tour, like I think 50 cities, one of them being here at like the Rochester Center and all that. But then the pandemic kind of hit that, and now we don't even know about that status for like this year or next year. So do
Yeah.
you feel like that they might have a chance to book a show by any chance? Or, and if so, do you feel like you might have that chance to go as well?
I mean, I still have tickets for Rage Against the Machine. So, and that was supposed to happen 2020, but that's been pushed back to 2022. But I think like if they already booked their venues, then they're probably like they're already get first dibs with like the snatch up that is happening with venues. But I mean, me getting tickets like to see them, I don't think that's gonna happen. That's why I've held on to my Rage Against the Machine tickets so dearly, because they're my favorite fucking band. Um, and I mean, I think when live shows come back, for me personally, I'll be able to step on stage. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna make that happen. To what degree? Like, there's, like I said, there's gonna be a huge snatch of like anything. Any opening slots are gonna be like very very coveted.
Yeah,
So
no doubt, no doubt. Hopefully, that tour should come back. I felt like that was gonna be like the top five tours of like the 2010s too, because of the unique lineup and the cities that they're playing to. So hopefully
yeah,
that happens too. Just to speak on like the last question, like aside from the release from like Fix Myself, do you have like any other plans for this year in terms of like music, content, or any other ventures? And do you have like any final advice that you would like to say for anyone or any creative willing that's trying to pursue their dreams?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. For like, I still have a bunch of singles that I've got like in the bank. um Albums are almost exhausting, I think. Like, for me, I take them very seriously in my writing. And I think like what I really want to do and experiment with is just working on singles, and just, I think that'll really kind of make it interesting for sounds, which is what I really want to play with. I can go from Runaway, which is like kind of poppy and like pop punkish, and then Fix Myself, that's like straight punk, and then these next few songs are going to be interesting to switch up, and yeah, just like focus on delivering the best songs that I can, without being bound to, I guess, a concept or anything like that. I just want to write and release songs, and work with other people too. So that's sort of the main plan. Right now, like, I just announced that like I'm doing like a remix or like cover contest of Fix Myself. So you can take like the best, like, do whatever you want with it, like make it your own. So it's sort of just like a song rendition contest. So I'm giving away like a bunch of merch and that sort of stuff to the people that participate, um and some money too. So I just want to, like, yeah, like, you just go in, like, either rap my verse or write a new verse, or like play it on guitar, play it on drums, play the fucking triangle. It doesn't really matter. Like, yeah, I just want to, like, give people that have a creative bone in their body a chance to shine with this song. So hopefully that goes really well. So that's sort of like where it's going with the content end, I suppose. And then obviously I'll be dropping more remixes and that sort of stuff on my YouTube channel in the coming times as well. So, and those are really fun. Though I'm finding those a lot of fun. To just like take a beat, write something that's new and fresh, and then put it out. As sort of like my own, and then it appeals to a different audience. But I guess for talking to someone, like talking to my younger self, or like someone else that's like young out there that's just kind of getting started, that wants to be an artist, the best piece of advice I would have to say is just figure out who you are, with like spend like a lot of time just writing. I think like your true self just comes out in your writing. And if you're authentic and you're real with yourself in your writing, and you just sit alone and you ruminate, then you'll be able to kind of get a grip on who you are, and you go out there and live your life as well, and you find yourself through those, whether it's adversity or just like day-to-day things. You contemplate like how you would react to things. So and that kind of just builds who you are as a person. So I think that's, take that and then create who you are as an artist. Like, who is Krosst Out, or who's Josh as an artist. And I think like if you're just real and authentic, the music can just speak for itself. um you don't have to always like explain it to people. Like, that's the point of art, is that it means one thing to me, but it means something else to you. So yeah, man, I think like that's my word of advice to younger people out there, is just be your fucking self.
No doubt. Very good advice as well too.